Hey everyone, my name is Asia. I'm with College Vine, and before we get started talking about your college essays today, I just want to take a moment to remind you about our free essay services. So, first, if you want to get a free review of your essay, you can head on over here and submit your essay. You'll get detailed inline edits, and you'll get your essay back in a return time of about 3 to 8 hours, maybe even less. And you can also improve your own writing skills by reviewing another student's essay right here. So a student will submit their essay, you'll provide feedback and send it back to them. And if you're looking for some more help on your essays, some guidance, you can head on over to our essay prompts and guides. So in our essay prompts and guides, you'll find a list of all the schools that you're applying to and how to write the essays. Head on over to collegevine.com to sign up and get started with all our free essay services today.
Let's do prompt 3, everyone. All right, it is optional. You may wish to include an additional essay if you feel that the college application forms do not provide sufficient opportunity to convey important information about yourself or your accomplishments. You may write on a topic of your choice, or you may choose one of the following topics. I'm going to read them out to you, everyone. 1, unusual circumstances in your life. 2, travel, living, or working experiences in your own or other communities. 3, what you want your future college roommate to know about you, kind of like that Stanford essay. 4, an intellectual experience, course, project, book, discussion, paper, poetry, or research topic in engineering, mathematics, science, or other modes of inquiry that has meant the most to you. 5, how you hope to use your college education. 6, a list of books you have read during the past 12 months. 7, the Harvard College Honor Code declares that we, quote, hold honesty as the foundation of our community, end quote. As you are considering entering this community that is committed to honesty, please reflect on a time when you or someone else you observed had to make a choice about whether to act with integrity and honesty. That one always gets me because if you know any of the history of Harvard, you may know that the year before I got there, while I was a freshman at Tufts and New England Conservatory, before I transferred, there was a massive cheating scandal at Harvard that made international news. It went all the way up to the top, 100 students got, suspended or expelled or whatever. I don't know. It was crazy. It's always funny when Harvard talks about priding itself on honesty when these cheating scandals of this size occur. Obviously, people are willing and ready to get ahead no matter where they go. I would think of Harvard as the most honest school. If I had to think of honest schools, I would think of, I don't know, maybe Wellesley, where they obey the honor code really intently. Anyway, Harvard says they hold honesty as an integral part of their curriculum, and you're welcome to write that essay no matter whether it's true or not. 8, the mission of Harvard College is to educate our students to be citizens and citizen leaders for society. What would you do to contribute to the lives of your classmates in advancing this mission? 9, each year a substantial number of students admitted to Harvard defer their admission for 1 year or take time off during college. If you decide in the future to choose either option, what would you like to do? 10, Harvard has long recognized the importance of student body diversity of all kinds. We welcome you to write about the distinctive aspects of your background, personal development, or the intellectual interests you might bring to your Harvard classmates. And finally, if none of these options appeal to you, you have the option to write on a topic of your choice. All right, what is the purpose of Essay 3? Well, gives you additional space to explain your personality, interests, perspectives. How should you go about doing it? What should your strategy be? Well, Harvard values leadership almost above all, also community and intellectualism. So, if you can show yourself, not tell, but show yourself to be an ambitious, compassionate leader without bragging, this will be extremely effective, right? Harvard is looking for the next generation of future world leaders, future titans of industry, future movers and shakers. Of course. So if you can show yourself to be a natural and ambitious leader in your essays, that will be looked upon favorably by the majority of Harvard admissions officers. Of course, demonstrating selflessness through service work and pursuing specific, maybe niche academic interests outside of school, also very good. Harvard really does care, again, about community and intellectualism for intellectualism's own sake. There is no word limit. We recommend you try to keep your essay to around 500 words, though, probably not more than 650. If you write more than 650 words, you're going to risk readers not reading your application, or they're going to skim it. Should you answer prompt 3? Yes, you should. It says it's optional, but this one really should be answered. If you don't answer this one, it looks like you haven't done your homework. Let's get into prompt 3, all the different parts. First up, unusual circumstances in your life. Remember that just because an experience seems unique to you, it might actually not be unique within the larger context of the entire body of applicants to Harvard. For example, writing generally about struggling with ADHD, not that unique. A lot of people struggle with ADHD. Writing about growing up as an immigrant, just in general. Again, a lot of immigrants going to be applying to Harvard every year. Not everyone has faced unique or unusual circumstances. If this isn't you, there's no need to write this essay. You can just pick another topic. A lot of people write about challenges and struggles here, and that, of course, not a problem. But maybe try to make sure that your essay ends on a somewhat positive or uplifting tone. You don't want to have a really dark essay that may suggest possibly that you're a really dark person or that you have significant mental health troubles. Obviously, you want your admission officer to think that you're a positive and optimistic person if possible, whether or not that's true. Some examples, I went along the ADHD and the immigrant lines, but you can't just write about something that's in general if it's not going to make it be a unique experience. But for instance, maybe struggling with an obscure or rare health challenge, that of course is unique. Or maybe you're talking about the immigrant experience, but you're talking about a highly specific issue you've encountered. Maybe we're talking about colorism in the South Asian community or in the African American community or something like that. If we're talking about a very specific issue within the larger context of immigration or race or ethnicity or religion or whatever, and that specific issue is unique or unusual circumstance about which you can write. It says my internet connection is unstable. I think maybe I froze. If I am not frozen, say that I'm not frozen in the chat, people. I want to hear from you. Anyway, we're going on to number 2. Number 2 is the travel, living, or working experience in your own or other communities essay. Of course, you want to avoid the cliche of traveling to a low-income part of the world, learning from people who are less privileged than you, especially if you didn't have a lot of direct contact with those people. I think of one essay I edited where the student wrote about going on vacation to the DR, seeing a bunch of low-income people who seemed very happy and having a huge realization that life isn't all about materialism and that being poor doesn't mean you can't also be happy. Not a good take, people. You definitely don't want to make a take like that if you don't actually know any of the people whom you saw or who supposedly influenced you. Being poor is probably not fun, and most poor people aren't exactly happy being poor, as far as I know. So not a great take, and it's definitely potentially patronizing and a bit problematic. Writing about service work at home or abroad, it can be a little bit overdone. It can also be problematic if it becomes kind of patronizing like that first example. But that said, it can be effective. If you choose to go that route, just make sure you have something specific and unique to you to discuss. If you're talking about traveling, make sure you describe a more compelling and specific purpose than just becoming more worldly or culturally aware. That's not going to do it. It's not a good enough reason. All right, let's do some examples. So example 1, discussion of how you learned about your own heritage by traveling back to the country in which your parents and or ancestors were born, temporarily embedding yourself in the community there. I think that would be a very effective essay. I've read essays like that, and by large been quite good. Maybe comparing and contrasting different places in which you've lived and talking about what specific things you learned from, not form, sorry everyone, each set of experiences. Form each set of experiences. How did I just notice that now? Oh my God. All right, essay number 3. This is the college roommate prompt. You want to strike a balance between the positive elements and attributes that you discuss about yourself and also the more humanizing or self-deprecating negative elements. Don't just list positive attributes. That will be boastful. Don't just list negative attributes. I have seen essays like this. They were very funny. Student made themselves out to be, this like lazy slob who snacks all night, eats mostly like junk food, plays a lot of video games. It was very funny in a self-deprecating way. It was not gonna be an effective admission essay. Your admissions officer does want to hear maybe some funny self-deprecating things about you, but they don't want to get an impression of you that will make them think that you're not driven or academically curious. or that you're not, talented, smart, determined to do well, etc. Do remember you're not just writing this to make another kid laugh. You are, in fact, addressing your admission officers, even if, supposedly you're addressing a future college roommate. It can be very effective to mention a couple fears and insecurities. Just make sure that they don't sound so big and all-consuming that they might cause you mental health trouble on campus. Of course, the admissions officers are going to try to select for people who, for lack of a better way to say it, probably going to try to select for people who aren't struggling with significant or mental health challenges. It can, of course, many of us are, but it can make doing well in college difficult. So yeah, it's too bad how this kind of works, but that's how it kind of works. Okay, humor, very important. Show some personality, explore your quirky side, maybe talk about some unique hobbies, personal oddities. Those things are all fun and genuine. Be genuine. You can be more casual than you would be in a normal essay, but do remember that your audience is your college admissions officer. Do not say anything offensive or inappropriate. And finally, generally best to avoid discussing politics or other particularly sensitive topics. You can do it, but if you're going to do it, you got to be careful. You do not want to offend anyone or turn off an admissions officer who may not share your particular political persuasion. I stole this from Stanford. This is an excerpt of a Stanford letter to your roommate. Of course, you don't have to do this one as a letter, but you can. Ahem. May I make a toast? First off, I am so pumped to live with you. I don't have a sibling, so this is as close as it gets. Also, I just wanted you to know I'm an ENFJ. I'm not nearly as brilliant as Obama or Oprah, but I do fancy the idea of sharing traits with them. ENFJs are focused on values and vision, passionate about the possibilities for people, tuned into the needs of others, and tend to be optimistic and forward-thinking. Sums up my personality, I'd say. I free my mind by exercising and writing. Our campus's fresh forestry is perfect for morning, night runs, picnics. As you can tell, not actually a Harvard essay, Stanford essay, not much of a forest on Harvard's campus. Although there is a Harvard forest out of town, which is cool, I've heard. I've never been. It would be so fun if you joined. I got it. I'm one to stay up all night to chat over coffee and pastries. I'm also one to venture out and walk or bike 10 miles for Polaroid pics and yummy eats. Yelp for life. I have a passion for fashion. I love it because style is universal and uniquely personal. Read Warren stories. I have a blog dedicated to learning about global styles and cultures and can't wait to study abroad. I'm so deeply humbled to be surrounded by exceptional, passionate people like you who are going to rock this world. I had visited Stanford 3 times before applying, and I had written on my secret blog during my second visit that my heart felt so moved to call this place home one day. Well, I couldn't be happier to be home with you. Cheers, name or nickname. Was this essay good? I would say it's mixed. I think there are some good things and some not good things. Let's talk about some of the not good things. First of all, a little bit too casual. I am so pumped. I just don't think that necessarily belongs in a college admissions essay. Again, is a personal choice. Yelp for life, yummy eats. Not sure I'm a huge fan of how casual it gets. I do not like these slashes, morning/night runs/picnics. It should be morning, night runs, and picnics. Ditto walk/bike, ditto global cultures and styles, and the can't wait to study abroad thing. I would make these full sentences. What else isn't good? I don't like the massive quote about ENFJs. Why not just put that in your own words? Sound intelligent when you talk about your personality type instead of just using up a bunch of space with someone else's words. And I'm not sure I totally love that I'd visited Stanford 3 times before applying bit, because it doesn't seem necessarily, it's great that the applicant is able to kind of express how committed they are to attend Stanford. It's going to, make the admissions officer think that they're serious about going. That said, I'm not sure it's like something that you'd include in a note to a roommate. Like, why does your roommate need to know that? It's kind of weird. So it's a little bit inauthentic, I think. What's good about it? First of all, I love the different vignettes that kind of connect together in terms of overall like narrative. Like we get a sense of who this individual is as a person from these different pieces of their life. I like them talking about their personality, gives us a good sense of who they are. I like that they talk about different specific things, the fresh forestry, that they like exercising and writing. They have a passion for fashion. They love, walking and biking. All these things are like specific niche interests for the most part. I mean, walking and biking, maybe not niche interests, but they're interests. I love that they talk about their personal blog. I love the rhymes, passion for fashion, universal and uniquely personal. I don't really know what Read Warren Stories is, but maybe if I looked it up, I would know. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Some good things, some bad things. I love that it is personal and expresses, helps us get a sense for who the applicant is. I think it's just a little bit too casual and not necessarily super well written. But hope you all enjoyed my analysis. Number 4, an intellectual experience that has meant the most to you. You can discuss something having to do with your primary field or interest. You can also discuss something that has to do with a totally separate field. Added bonus if you can relate this field back to your field of interest and intended concentration. I'll give you an example of that in a moment. And avoid just describing the experience. And relevant field. You need this to be personal. Why did this experience mean so much to you? So some examples: a future computer science concentrator talking about how a simple robotics project ignited their love for programming. I've read that essay before a couple times. It's always been good. Talking about, Lego Mindstorms or robotics classes introduced them to programming and they fell in love and have done incredible things since. For the example of 2 unrelated interests, I've taken a future psych concentrator talking about how they developed an interest in philosophy and ethics through a high school speech and debate experience. Added bonus if you can relate the two together, kind of like I did in that discussion of narrative earlier, talking about how philosophy, ethics, and psych are all different ways of understanding and categorizing human behavior and understanding the human mind. Definitely a way to connect the two seemingly disparate fields. Y'all are in luck because this is the essay I wrote when I applied to Harvard. I have not excerpted the whole essay. I've only given you the first and final paragraph. If you all want to read the full thing, you'll have to stick around and ask me to do that during the Q&A at the end of the presentation because we're going to try to keep going through the material now. But I'll read you the first paragraph and then I'll skip to the last paragraph. When I was in the 9th grade, I heard Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony for the first time. Actually, I only heard the last movement of the symphony, which I thought was the loudest, most intense, most exciting 13 minutes of music I had ever encountered. I did not know who Shostakovich was or what had inspired his music, but I knew I wanted to find out. So when I was asked to write a thesis paper about any aspect of the world history for my advanced placement history class the following year, I chose Shostakovich as my subject. Through my research, I came to see Shostakovich's music and world in an entirely new light. ... We're going to skip 3 paragraphs, and now the last paragraph. Since completing my paper, I now hear Shostakovich's music differently. While I had always loved the last movement of his Fifth Symphony, I had never even bothered to listen to the slow, heart-wrenching third movement, the emotional epicenter of the piece. I have come to realize that the bombastic Soviet triumphalism of the finale is just an elaborate smokescreen protecting Shostakovich's true feelings. Now, when I hear its final strains, I hear Shostakovich's voice, real voice, crying out that no matter how oppressed, the individual will prevail. I had never thought that music could condemn a government or express such tangible pain and suffering. I had never viewed music as something with which people could identify so personally. I had always assumed that the arts were far too abstract for this. My research gave me more than just an appreciation for the freedoms of our modern democratic society. Through my studies of Dmitri Shostakovich, I have developed a new appreciation for art's communicative power. What's good about it? Obviously, it talks about me. It's about me learning about the power of music and the arts. It answers the prompt. This was actually taken and adapted from a Princeton essay I wrote, which was about a person who inspired me, or a person I'd like to meet, one of those. And I wrote about Shostakovich. I had not written about my thesis paper at all, but in fact, I did write a thesis paper about Shostakovich for AP World History, and I'd read Shostakovich's memoirs and some other biographical works on him. So I knew a lot of stuff about Shostakovich and his music. I was able to adapt this to add in the essay elements so that it would respond directly to this prompt. I think effectively, and it shows that I know a lot, that I care deeply, that I did my research. Also, of course, also I think it's well written. I might be biased since I did write it. It was a long time ago though, like many years ago. If you don't know, Shostakovich was a very famous Soviet composer, knew Stalin quite well personally. At times, he was on the ins with the administration. At other times, he was on the outs. When he wrote this particular piece, the Fifth Symphony, he had been denounced by Stalin, probably directly in the official communist newspaper, party newspaper at the time. His opera, Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district, had stirred up quite intense controversy. He'd been publicly denounced. He was practically in hiding. He lived with like a bag packed, scared that he was going to be taken away in the night, like many of his friends, and killed or put in concentration camps, labor camps in northern Siberia. He was maybe too powerful a cultural figure for Stalin to do that, but it did happen to other very famous artists at the time and many other people as well. Shostakovich shelved his Fourth Symphony because he knew it would be too controversial, and he wrote the Fifth Symphony to appease the Soviet authorities, to make them believe that he did in fact believe that Soviet communism was the dominant. It was the dominant global system, the dominant country, etc. And that final bit of the Final Symphony is supposed to be showing the dominance of the Soviet regime over the rest of the countries of the world. Of course, Shostakovich writes later in his memoirs that, in fact, it's the complete opposite. And it's, he's crying out against his oppression. And people at the time, while the Soviet regime took him at his word and believed that it was a celebration of Soviet power and communism, people at the time, many people really heard Shostakovich's true voice in his music and loved his music because it was a real tangible expression against oppression. I didn't realize that music could do anything like this so directly, so concisely. It was a really powerful experience for me to learn and discover his music. That's what the essay is about. It does communicate this. If you're really desperate to hear the rest of the essay, I'll read it to you all later.